Hello, I'm here with Carisa Ingalls-La Rosa. She has been polite enough to have a chat with me today on some interesting topics of hers, and I'm super, super stoked to hear what she has to talk to us about today.
I'm Carissa. A few of the topics that I brought to Rissa's attention that I've gone through are learning how to cope with tough times and tough tribulations. I myself am 32 and I've been classified as a medical mystery. I end up going through odd yet unusual circumstances. My most recent one is dealing with an abdominal issue that is not linked to Crohn's or most normal known substantial reasoning. I'm in the middle of being set through 3 different trials to figure out what is wrong. And prior to that, it was having a blood clot in my liver while pregnant, which is very rare, but that is my family.
Wow, never heard of that one before.
No, most blood clots you'll find are either in the heart, the neck, the lungs, or the legs. It's very rare to get a blood clot in your liver, let alone while pregnant.
Wow.
Let's see, I think my doctor that I had for the pregnancy had only seen one other case in her 20 years of being an OBGYN.
That's interesting.
It was fun. Lots of shots, lots of blood tests. I went through a lot more specialized care with my last child. We actually ended up having to deliver her a month early because of all the health issues that went with that.
How did that work out? Or not work,
Well,
I should say, or either were.
she's now a year and a half old. She'll be 2 this March. And even though she was a preemie, she has grown like a weed. She's actually hit a lot of the early marks for kids. I've been really happy. And I didn't get to breastfeed her like I did her older sister because of all the medications and the shots, and it was rough on me. But gotta say, she was my miracle baby. When they found cervical cancer with my first, I was told I had a 25% chance to even have another kid. So that's my little miracle baby, and she just got here a month early.
I'm happy to hear that, that she's okay and everything, because sometimes that's not what happens. I'm sure that you know that.
I was really worried when they'd found the blood clot while I was pregnant, on top of already knowing that I was going to be a high risk pregnancy after having cervical cancer. It took 11 years until I finally got that you have no more cancer.
Good. That's
So
positive
getting
news.
pregnant was hard. But gotta say, I love my miracle baby, and she has been, oh, right now she's hit the tiny terror stage.
Oh boy, everything's mine.
Oh, it's not just mine. It's she now will look at you and tell you no
Yep.
or
No, mine. No, I'm gonna throw things for no reason.
and the raptor shriek.
Oh, raptor shrieks.
Oh, yes. When I was pregnant with her, we started calling her fish because there was never a time that she was not moving and flopping around like a fish. After she was born, she became the piranha because it was trying to chew on everything and everyone.
Nice.
And now she's my little raptor shrieker. She's the youngest of our 4.
Okay.
I gave birth to 2. The other 2 are my husband's kids from another relationship, but it's been a fun adjustment for all the kids. We've got 3 girls and a boy. Poor boy's outnumbered. And we're actually taking a lot of what we learned growing up for coping to help them. Our big one right now is STBA. It stands for stop, think, breathe, act. It comes in handy for everything. If you're in the middle of an argument, Just stop for a minute, think about what's going on, take a breath, and then act. We use it for schooling, we use it for adjusting attitudes. Even we'll use it while we're cooking if something's not going right.
And not enough people do that too. That's a good way to think about it. I'm going to start using that myself.
Yeah. That's one of our coping mechanisms here is STBA. Another one we use is the 3-second rule. If you're about to say something, take 3 seconds before you speak. If you still are going to go with it, go with it. But just remember, every action has an equal or opposite reaction.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Our son, we're trying to help him learn all it takes is one thing to change someone's life for the better or worse. And that's my coping mechanism, is it takes one thing. I'm going through 15 years of trying to figure out just how much of a medical mystery I am. I have to remember it just takes one thing. And a lot of that one thing is taking a moment for myself. I've learned I used to have really heavy anger issues. I was always the one who had to come in and defend everybody. So that took a while to remember that just takes one thing. Recently, we saw somebody who didn't have a Christmas tree or any ornaments for their kids for Christmas. They had just gotten in a vehicle accident and were out of work until the 15th. They had nothing. I put together a nice little movie kit for them, a couple of movies, popcorn, candy canes, and a blanket, along with a little 2-foot tree and some ornaments. That person thanked me so much, and it just reminded me all it takes is one thing.
Just takes the one act of kindness, as I always hear people say. You have no idea how much you could have changed someone's, even their life, even if it's just their day, is what I think about. Like, even if you change one little thing in someone's day, maybe somebody was having a bad day, you did one thing, the rest of their day is better. You never know.
No, you don't. We actually watch a lot of what's called Darman videos. And his big tagline is, "So you see." And it's all about, you never know what somebody's going through. You don't know what's brought them to that point. They're really inspirational videos for the most part. There are a few that are kind of touchy on where they go, but learning to cope and think about not just yourself, but how you can affect somebody has really turned my life around.
I really think we need more people that think like you. So absolutely.
I'm raising 4 of them.
Good. Good. And you know what, to me, you may just think that these are your 4 children, but raising good children is going to create that ripple effect because they're going to touch others as they grow. There's no act that is too small to create, create or not create a good, better effect. What you're doing is creating that better ripple effect for the future. And I wish more people thought like that.
It stems a lot from the trauma I went through growing up. I came from a broken family. I went through my rebellious period where my stepdad wasn't my dad and ended up having a kid of my own. And it took a lot of years to realize that everything I did could affect somebody else. So why not stop and take the time to help them out?
I respect that. So I was going to ask earlier, what has been your biggest hurdle in life, do you think? Or I know there might not just be one specific one. Just usually when someone asks me a question, I know there's multiple, I say what the first thing that comes to my head is, because there usually is one. And I bet there is one that just kind of popped in there, right?
My biggest hurdle has been my anger.
Okay.
That's the honest truth. I went through a lot of years of resentment because of being molested and being raped from a young age until I hit adulthood. So I had a lot of built up anger, and that has been my biggest hurdle. Still is. I'll admit it, especially having 4 kids around. Takes a lot to stop.
I respect that. I don't have one yet. I'm scared to have one kid, and I see all these great moms with, for even one child plus, and I'm like, you know what? I respect you because I'm too much of a pansy to start on my one. That's awesome.
Well, my first one, she also was kind of a miracle child. I was on birth control and we had a condom, and I still ended up pregnant.
Oh.
So.
I hear about women, obviously rare. I don't want to scare people, but I hear about women that full on get like their tubes tied and this and that, and it still happens. And I'm always like, you know what? I kind of think that kind of was literally meant to be there. That child was not taking no for an answer.
My older sure didn't. And then she decided, oh, I'm not going to come out when it's time. I'm going to make you wait 2 weeks. Make you gain 55 pounds before I even come out. I started out at 120 pounds when I got pregnant with her. Right before I went to deliver, I was 175. She was a handful at birth. Both kids, I went through and did natural births. No epidural. It ain't easy.
I sympathize. I'm a pansy. I am literally terrified to do it at all. I'm kind of on that cusp of just not wanting to at all, or just doing it, or I don't know. So
well, I will say being a mom has a lot of trials. Your big thing is you want to make sure you raise them right. You want to make sure you raise them to make a difference. You want to raise them to go and live on their own. But a lot of that is your own reflection of growing up and what you've missed out on, the support systems. That's like, this year's been hard on us.
This year's been hard on almost everybody, like in my opinion. I know it's been harder on one person more than another, but whether it be, mental health has honestly been the worst, like for myself and for many others. Mental health and finances are the two that I'm coming across the most during this whole thing. It is really it's broken us, and it's made us stronger, and it's made us not stronger all in one. Me personally, I've learned a lot through this year. Like I thought that I was an introvert before, and I learned it was very much the opposite. When I was forced to be locked in my house for 3 months and I couldn't go anywhere, I learned I'm not an introvert because I was crying when I couldn't be around other people. So I was absolutely wrong.
Well, I am an introvert, so the whole being home hasn't really bothered me. But another coping mechanism I have is cosplay. I like to get dressed up and go to conventions. That's where I can be somebody else. And that helps with getting around people. I've got really bad social anxiety. Even a trip to the grocery store can put me into a panic attack. So when it was like, okay, stay home, no problem. I will take this with yes.
You're like, that's no difference to me.
But I was working in a distribution center, and it was hard on me because I was around people in big groups sporadically throughout the day. I'm very much a solo worker because of the anxiety. So sitting there and trying to cope with that, I would spend a lot of time counting to 10 in Japanese. It's been learning coping mechanisms my whole life that have actually helped. For me, it's counting in other languages will actually help me while I'm in big groups of people. And it's also fun to learn them. Spending the time to do the STBA has been a big help for me throughout the years, especially when I'm having an angry day where anything's going to set me off. I mean, cosplay, that's actually a really good coping mechanism for a lot of people who are introverted and who have the social anxiety, because you get to become somebody you're not. And you get to have fun making the accessories or going out and finding that fabric to make the outfit, getting to see all the different types of things you can do with it. It's something that takes time and focus and helps you learn how to slow down. And seeing some of the kids' reactions when you go out in full garb, it makes it worth it. And especially for people who have kids, going and doing cosplay, you're getting to show that kid something you love. And you get to help them get into it. Like my oldest, she's mad we didn't get to go to any cons this year.
You know
Because
what?
she wanted.
I'm with you actually. I go to one or two a year, so I'm with you. I unfortunately have not cosplayed yet. I've wanted to, but I never get around to making the costume, and by the time it gets here, I'm like, oh, I don't have time now. But I do enjoy walking around and seeing. That's the whole point of the con, is going to see everyone else is dressed as.
We're working on doing a steampunk DC setup for a con. It's going to take quite some time. I'm going to be doing Black Canary. She's one of my favorites, but that's also because she's one of the lesser known, not very mainstream characters. Always loved those ones. My husband's going to be doing Green Arrow. My sister is going as Poison Ivy.
Nice.
And my oldest wants to do Speedy, Green Arrow's little sidekick. And it's always fun to see what you can come up with and what you can put yourself into.
Yeah.
And it helps a lot of people to have that, to be able to sit and focus. And I used to think that reading was a great coping mechanism for me. It was, to the point where I didn't know anything that was going on around me. I could literally block everything out. But it got harder as I got older because of the fact that I couldn't just cut myself off anymore. That was a coping mechanism I had as I was younger. I've learned to adapt. And tough times, you gotta do like Darwin does. If you can't adapt, you're not going to get anywhere. And adaptability will get you further in life than stubbornness. And I hate to say it. The Irish blood, we are a stubborn lot. And having kids, you really learn to change your coping mechanisms. I'm not going to tell anybody, oh yeah, go have a kid. It'll change your life. It will. But don't just go have a kid to have a kid. You want to make sure that you've learned to adapt yourself to be able to teach to a new generation before you spend that time and have the kid.
I appreciate that advice. I really do. And I'm sure for other younger guys, gals that don't know what they want to do too, it's good to hear someone that's saying, don't be against doing it, but don't just do it to do it. I think that's great.
Oh, it's true. I had my oldest when I was 18. Granted, she changed my life, and she made me grow up even quicker than I had been. But I'm just glad that I'm able to show her that it just takes one thing. When I let her know about the gal who wasn't going to have a Christmas tree for her kids, her exact response was, oh no, We will make her Christmas. We will give her a reason to smile.
Good.
And that showed me that I am passing on that generosity, that kindness that my family showed me. It was my grandfather who showed me how to do that. A man who spent most of his life doing volunteer work. He worked with the fire departments, he worked with the police departments, he worked at food banks. And his big thing was, you just got to do one thing, make that one thing count.
I love that.
And it is. I will tell anybody who are thinking about having kids, you're never going to be financially stable enough to have a kid. There is no, oh, I'm not going to have a kid till I'm financially stable. You're never going to be financially stable.
Or prepared in any manner.
No. But make sure you know what you're going to pass on to your kid. Learn your family history. That's a big one. Is learn your family history. You never know what's going to pop up down the line. My mother just found out she had Crohn's last year, right after we lost my grandfather and right after our miracle baby was born. It's hard learning that you have a bunch of diseases that hit hard in families. But learning to understand them and actually go through and spend the time researching what has gone on to get to that point will help you learn how to cope with it. It'll help you learn, okay, I'm going to have to stay away from this and I'm going to have to lighten up on that. Knowledge is your best coping mechanism. It truly is.
Well, some people get exposed to more knowledge than others, though, not to sound terrible. And I think that's a big factor in that.
My mom did not know that Crohn's was a hereditary thing. I did. As soon as she told me she had it, it's like, okay, I got to start watching for the signs and symptoms. I spent a decade in and out of the medical field. I had more knowledge on the subject than she did. But now she'll come to me and she'll be like, okay, this is what I'm going through with this. What have you seen others do? I got my mother coming to me. Never be afraid to reach out.
Yeah.
That's another big thing we teach our kids here is never be afraid to reach out. Whether it's to us, the parents, or to the teachers. If you don't know something or you feel that something's happening, reach out to us. We'll help you get through it.
And you can gain a little bit of knowledge from every person that you're around too. You meet, you talk to. That was one of the purposes of me beginning this is if I have conversations with anybody that'll have a conversation with me, I can't imagine all the things that I could learn just from people conversing with me every single time. Every single time I'm going to learn something new. I've already learned a couple new things in this conversation.
You're never too old to learn something new.
So I was also going to ask earlier, what are some other hurdles that you've come across or more explanation into the medical mystery that you brought up earlier? I'm super, super curious about that.
Well, they have found in me they found the blood clots. And this issue I'm going through right now, when I was younger, they found curvature on my spine, but never figured out what it was from. I also have 6 toes.
What?
Here's a fun little fact. Everybody is born with 6 toes, but it's on the outside of the pinky toes. So you have a little split like that over time grows into making a strong pinky toe.
Oh.
Mine never fully connected. So I actually have a split in my bone where I have 6 toes on both feet, not just one.
You can completely say no, but if you're brave enough, can I see that? You were what was
It's
it now?
not something you can actually see. It's you have to
Okay.
go and feel along the
Okay,
pinky
I
bone
see.
line,
Okay.
and you feel there's a big hole right in the pinky bone that does not connect.
Wow.
And I got called a mutant for a while by my own family, but that was when the X-Men movies came out.
Uh,
So no, they weren't trying to be mean and pick on me. They were just trying to figure out how it happened.
okay.
Everybody is born that way, and normally by the age of 4, between 4 and 6, it fully grows together. Mine never did. And they have taken scans. Let's see, it was about 5-10 years ago. I rolled my ankle really bad. They took a scan of my foot and it's still there.
As I said, I learned something new with every single person I talk to. Didn't expect to learn about that.
No, most people don't. It was fun learning about that when I was 12, 11, 12, somewhere in there when they found that.
I'm not grossed out or anything. I immediately was like, can I see it?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people would be grossed out, but I was afraid of saying it when I was younger. But now I'm like, you know what? I'm already a medical mystery. They still can't figure out how I got a compression fracture in the middle of my spine. They can't find out what caused the bulging vertebrae on my neck that will cause me to lose complete feeling in my left arm for months at a time, where I can't even hold anything. Uh, they do. They love to call me my doctor. She's like, you are just one medical anomaly after another. And it's been fun learning all the different ways that I can be different.
Awesome.
Sensitivity to beef.
Beef?
Beef.
Oh,
I have a sensitivity to cow meat.
okay.
I cannot eat a lot of it, and it's red meat. I can have any other type of red meat, no problem. Deer, elk, buffalo, none of that will cause me an issue. My great grandmother was completely allergic to beef. So they're trying to figure out what causes that issue for me. I spent 5 years thinking I was gluten sensitive
When it was beef.
when it wasn't just beef, it was also my gallbladder.
Oh,
I had gallstones so big that they would cause blockage in the tube. And 4 years ago, this coming spring, they had to remove my gallbladder because it was about to rupture from how many stones were in it.
wow.
It was one of the biggest set of stones that they had found in somebody in over a decade. So they're like, this is not something common. And it's like, yay, more to the medical anomaly setup for me. Uh, they found kidney stones mid pregnancy with my first kid that just disappeared with no treatment. I go in and out of anemia.
I was like, you're giving somebody a look.
My sister, we've been trying to make Christmas outfits, and our machines are not liking us today.
Oh no.
Actually, this first time I ever had a sewing machine not cut me open was the one that I work on. We call it Christine.
Ah.
She's very temperamental. On the opposite hand of what you use to guide your machines, I've ended up with a scar.
Oh,
And every time I've used a machine since I got that scar, I reopen it until this machine. And that's been going on for 20 years.
oh.
Uh, a lot of the issues that they've come across in me would be in people who have cancer, the bone density issues, but I don't have cancer. They've put me through multiple cancer testings, multiple scans. There's no cancer. When I was 21, I was sent through a bone density scan, and they said that my spinal columns were degraded to the point of a 70-year-old woman
Whoa.
at the age of 21.
Wow.
So when it comes to medical anomalies, that is me.
And here you still are.
Here I still am. I spend a lot of time going, what's next? What are you going to
bet.
find next?
You're like, I'm not even into my 50s.
I'm barely into my 30s, and I've been told I have the bones of an 80-year-old. I have the joint issues of a woman in her 60s. I've got ruptured bursae sacs that cause bursitis in my knees. I got that working in the medical field. That one's actually really common for medical workers. You end up with bursitis in your joints.
Okay.
I've got rheumatic arthritis along my arms into my hands. And a lot of these issues are not something you'd see in somebody so young.
Right. You know, I think like there's a lot of people out there that are always like struggling. I have to be this perfect person. And then you meet people that they have so many issues that they've overcome, like yourself. And they're like, you know what? You really don't. Just got to get through what you got to get through and enjoy your life. And I'm sure you're kind of in agreement with that statement, with what I'm hearing, what you've been through.
Well, I like to say one thing. I'm not perfect, but I am a limited edition.
I like that.
Because no two people are the same.
I like your quotes.
A lot of them I've picked up out of books, or I've picked up and just tweaked them to revolve around how I am. But that one is actually from a meme that I found a good decade ago. Back when memes started.
So, what is your best advice that you could give to somebody, you know, maybe even like yourself that's starting to struggle with, you know, multiple medical issues? They feel like life might be crumbling, or even like a young person like yourself who is starting to have all these issues that you'd only maybe normally see in someone that's going in their 60s or 70s. Like, how can people, you know, maybe, how could you help people get through something like that?
Biggest thing, never be afraid to reach out. There are so many communities of people who, like me, have medical issues that aren't common in younger people. Reach out. That is honestly my biggest advice to anybody, is reach out. And do not back down if you feel something is wrong and the doctors keep telling you there's nothing. Keep at them. They found after my baby was born, about a month after, save time, I got an IUD implanted.
Uh-oh, I don't want to hear this one.
This was my third IUD, mind you.
I have one.
I never had any issues with the first two. The third one, after 2 months of being in me, disappeared.
I've heard about that happening. Was it, if I may ask, was it Paragard or Mirena or?
It was a Mirena.
Oh no.
Like I said, this was my third one, mind you.
Scared me.
What had happened is when the doctors went and looked, they couldn't find it. So their answer was, it must have fallen out. A year after me sitting there and telling the doctors, there is something wrong. There is something wrong. It's like, I don't know what it is, but there is something wrong with me. It took me a year, almost a year and a half, to be taken seriously. I did not back down. My normal doctor, not the one who had been seeing me, when I told her, it's like, there is seriously something wrong, she sent me to get a CAT scan. For over a year, I had the IUD embedded in my abdomen.
What?
It had traveled through my uterus and gone up into my abdomen.
I've heard about it becoming dislodged and like implanting itself into the wall of your uterus, basically, but I've never heard of that. That's insane.
Again, lovely medical anomaly.
Oh my goodness.
But it took me a year, almost a year and a half of pushing at the ER doctors, of the OB doctors. There is something wrong. It took me, what was it? 14 months before I was taken seriously.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Months. but I have a doctor who is amazing, who actually listens to what's going on. And when I told her they're not taking it seriously, they keep sending me away, they're not actually trying to figure it out, she's like, no, let's stop a minute. I want to order this, this, and this. Well, pain got worse. Went in, I was supposed to get the CAT scan anyways. Ended up getting it through the ER, and lo and behold, they found the IUD. And it was fun having it removed. It was a next day procedure. And of course, during COVID, I couldn't have my husband there with me. That was the hardest part, was my support system was not there.
Oh, this happened during COVID?
This happened during COVID.
Oh, I didn't know that. I'm sorry.
Actually, I just had it removed almost 2 months ago now.
It's one of the more terrifying things of this whole thing going on is I'm hearing like there are like women giving birth that they can't have their partners in there if the hospital's strict enough, or people that have to have surgery alone that they're scared out of their minds, like they have to go do these surgical things alone.
It's really scary. I mean, I was relieved they found it, but it was hard knowing that I didn't have my support with me. And like I said, reaching out is your biggest thing you can do. And my husband and my sister, they've been who I reach out to when something's going down. I struggle through depression. I struggle through anxiety. When I'm getting into a bad place, I reach out to them.
Good.
And granted, a lot of people will tell you, well, that's not my place. You can always reach out to someone who's been there or who is needing another person to support them as well. You don't have to have the same issues to reach out to somebody. Help one another. As we tell the kids, help me, help you, help me.
I love that. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you talking to me. I've loved all your quotes and your points that you've made. Actually brought a smile to my face quite a few times. Is there anything that you'd like to end this on?
I was going to say, honestly, my big thing is don't be afraid to reach out, and don't back down when you know something is wrong.
Some of us need to hear that. I will remember this conversation probably forever, and I'm going to keep that in my mind. I'm probably going to go through some terrible medical thing in my life. You're going to pop in my head and be like, I gotta not back down from this. I know something's wrong. She told me to. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. I'm just glad that I was able to help you with this.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very thankful to anybody who's been willing to come on and talk to me about anything. And like I said before, I don't know what people are going to come at me with, and I'm learning something, hopefully every conversation I get into, about all sorts of things. That's why I don't want to do a genre. I want, like, what do you have for me? You got ghosts, you got medical stuff, can you fly? So
well, sometimes I think I can fly, but normally I'm just falling out of bed.
Well, thank you so much. I'm going to let you go ahead because you got kiddos and get some rest for tonight. But thank you for talking with me. You've been awesome.
You're welcome.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.